The manga starts off with our protagonist, who is reminiscing about his unfortunate existence. From the moment he was born, he was nerfed because his father's company went bankrupt, causing him to grow up in poverty with only one pathetic meal per day. If that wasn't bad enough, he had food thrown at him, was accused of shoplifting, and was finally yeeted out of existence when he got hit by a car, resulting in a religious funeral being held for him. The screen shifts, and we see the protagonist skillfully fighting off a huge-ass monster, wondering how in seven hells is he going to take down this beast with a single punch, given his usual misfortune. Dodging around trying not to get hit by the monster, our protagonist winces in pain after his arm gets blown off. Not giving up after seeing that the arm has grown back, the MC gears up and throws another punch, thinking why is he even here fighting a beast like this when he is most probably going to get bitten and killed. As he throws the beast away with his punch, the scene shifts when a shrieking childlike elf chainsmoker calls him a careless youngster who doesn't listen and care, and labels him as the reason for her pathetic smoking. Our protagonist claps back by calling out her appearance and awful habits. Done with the insult, the elf introduces herself as a god who will reincarnate the unfortunate boy who died young with her supreme power and will also grant him 3 randomly selected unique skills, which all turn out to be duds. Disappointed at his horrible luck, our protagonist side-eyes the elf, thinking it to be ridiculous. This pushes the elf to ask his name. The boy introduces himself as Mutou Kushina. However, the elf gets bored and goes on to explain the whole deal of being unlucky, but stops and gets weirded out after noticing the creepy-ass smile on Kushina's face as he mutters how he has bad luck. Asking about what he finds so funny about it, Kushina retorts that with the effed-up luck he got, all he can do is smile in the face of misfortune. Getting back to her point, the elf chick explains the 3 skills and how they are the main force behind magic, allowing its user to do things beyond imagination. After naming the 3 skills that Kushina randomly got, she moves on to the very first one, which is super Speedy Regeneration. The elf explains how it allows its users to heal themselves within seconds, but like every free thing, it comes with a cost, which is that your free pass of living expires after a certain number of uses, and you get yeeted out of existence. After dropping this whole bomb, the elf talks about the second technique, Agelessness, which quite literally allows you to stay fresh and drippy without ever becoming a boomer. Meanwhile, seeing that neither of these abilities seems like a dud, Kushina appears confused but is quickly shut down by the elf, telling him to wait and see what they do to his ass in the long run. Finally shifting to the last ability, the elf mentions Grit, the Indomitable Spirit, which confuses Kushina, as his illiterate self doesn't know what that is. Realizing the level of dumb she is dealing with, the elf shifts to a game analogy explaining how every human is born with a health level, which seems to go down as you get injured or fall victim to truck kun, ultimately dying when it hits 0. But in a plot twist, just when you are done for, if you activate the ability of Grit, you manage to get revived with only 1 health point, making you almost immortal but only in near-death stage. Wondering that he might never die, the elf mutters that yes, but only when he's at death's door. After hearing all this long rant, a cocky Kushina believes that these 3 abilities aren't that bad. However, the elf ends his delusions by stating that his unworthy self will never activate this ability because the only way to do so is to not fear death. This stuns Kushina, who questions whether he is afraid or not. Looking at his pitiful state, the elf grills him further about how every living being's instinct to survive. They tend to fear the end of their life, and as a god, she has observed many reincarnations, yet not a single one of them proved that they are not afraid of death. Taunting Kushina further, the elf states that if he believed that he would enjoy these great skills, then he has another thing coming because the world where he is getting spawned, he won't survive. After being yeeted to a whole other world, Kushina wakes up and wonders about what the elf said about him not surviving with the dud skills while looking at the vast forest in front of him. After wandering around the new world, he starts to doubt the idea as he sees a whole empty forest in front of him. And as a broke person, that's plenty of food. Along with food, Kushina also comes across a stream of water, thinking that now he has water as well, he has the chance to survive. But as he is scooping water, he is hit with a flashback of a W. Diverting himself by looking around, Kushina finds some vines and mushrooms and thinks to himself that he can make this work. And it's great that he didn't spawn in a town filled with people because they make him nervous. But as he is going on this mental rant, a huge monkey smashes him to the ground. Regaining his senses, Kushina feels something off and notices that his whole ass arm has been ripped off. Being the opposite of calm, Kushina has a mental breakdown as the monkey starts to approach him in the back, causing it to step on Kushina's ripped arm. As a bewildered Kushina stares on, he notices that his arm has grown back, but before he can react, he is once again smashed by the livid monkey and miraculously manages to once again get the same arm crushed. Not caring a bit, the monkey grabs the pathetic boy, looks at him, and starts to squeeze him, causing Kushina to grimace in pain. Not caring, the monkey throws him in the air with the intention of a light-hearted snack, which it successfully achieves after biting down and ripping Kushina in half and gulping him down. On the other side, watching everything transpire on her private screen, the elf god appears disappointed, while an equally disappointed Kushina mutters how his skills weren't useful after all here as he is being eaten alive. Back to the elf god, who is chilling while smoking. She wonders how Kushina couldn't do it after all, including helping with her plans, as now he's just stuck in the beast's belly, making regeneration, immortality, and grit useless. As the elf god is bored and thinking about finding a new candidate for reincarnation, she is shocked to see Kushina emerge from the beast's mouth. The beast, similarly shocked, groans in pain as an alive Kushina brutally crawls out of his mouth and lays on its chest, seemingly still alive. This scene leaves the elf god shell-shocked as her brain scrambles to find how he could have made it and right the. She reaches the conclusion that Kushina successfully activated Grit, the Indomitable Spirit, as the elf god tries to find a reason. How an ordinary man achieved this out of nowhere, Kushina starts going berserk, questioning how he is still alive after everything he went through, from dying in his timeline to being reincarnated and then being eaten alive by a monster. Witnessing this commotion, the elf god has a mental breakdown, wondering who exactly is Kushina, because how did a messed-up individual like this, who wanted nothing more than to die, is someone who ended up activating Grit, which was deemed impossible before. Still bitching about surviving, Kushina cries out and questions how much longer he has to endure this pathetic existence, and why can't he just die while still sitting on the poor beast's chest. As Kushina demands an answer from the elf god, she is still hooked on how this idiot managed to activate the impossible Grit, the Indomitable Spirit ability, not caring for the fact that he is screaming how he came back from the dead. Meanwhile, looking at how the miracle happened, Kushina wonders if the only reason this blasted miracle was caused was because he finally believed he could die. On the other hand, as Kushina rants out about getting dealt a bad hand, the elf god laughs to herself and legit crashes out about how someone can label surviving like this a bad hand. Trying to figure out who this man might be who finally managed to activate the Indomitable Spirit, the elf god looks through the paperwork again, which she barely skimmed previously, and there she finds her answer in Kushina's horrible life, especially the accident he was involved in. As a barely alive young Kushina lay on the street, writhing in agony, people around him ran around with a stretcher and checked his pulse, noticing that he was barely conscious. Around him, his father clashed with the policemen, shouting that it was the idiot driver's fault for doing this. As this argument goes on, a young Kushina, bleeding to death, finally passes out. Sometime later in the general hospital, a young Kushina wakes up, looking battered, when a nurse comes in, calling him indomitable and asking him whether the pain drugs have kicked in. As a groaning Kushina replies no, the nurse now decides to tell him to man up, as there aren't more drugs for brats like him. As she is crushing our man here, a voice yells out for Yuto-kun, causing the nurse to turn back as she tells him to rest, but Kushina just looks scared and worried for some reason. Behind the curtain, the nurse talks to what seems like Kushina's parents, telling them that he is healing. Not caring, they decide to burst through the curtain in terrifying expressions, calling him indomitable. They grill their spawn about how he has been and how it was, making Kushina extremely uncomfortable, wondering what they mean. He then sits up, and seeing this, his mother pulls his shirt down, asking him if his injuries were declared to be from the accident. Hearing Kushina mutter a weak yes, the odd couple appears to be thankful, expressing that they were quite worried about it getting exposed. After saying this, the witch finally drops her facade, stating how they got a lot of compensation from the car's driver, as a child was involved, resulting in them not wondering about money for some time now. Not reading the room, she goes on to reveal their malicious schemes about how causing small crimes like intentional accidents and shoplifting aren't that big of a deal anymore and show no result. They need accidents like these because they are very poor, and once Kushina is back on his feet, he should aim for a fancier ride this time. Lamenting about his own fate, a young Kushina thinks that, according to his parents, his birth brought misfortune to their family. He looks back at how everything started off with backhanded remarks due to stress, which soon turned into vicious slaps and getting hit routinely. Initially, as a kid, he felt guilty that it was only natural, as he was the one causing all the misfortune, and only if he were a lucky-go child his parents would have been happier. In another scene, as his father yells at him, Kushina realizes that it was his parents who were in the wrong, but he was just too weak to resist. Reminiscing about the time when his father beat his ass and left him to clean everything up, Kushina thought that at one point he did try to obey his parents, believing that this attitude would make them softer, but the beating never stopped. While cleaning, the water spilled around everywhere and clenching a glass, Kushina got angry thinking about how other people value their child, yet he never felt it. Moving to another memory, Kushina thought about how one time, when his mother was pissed off after her part-time job, she battered him with a wire hanger for not making dinner, while his father punched him for not laughing at his lame dad jokes. That is where he learned to fake a smile, which he seems to have gotten quite good at. Kushina recalled all the abuse he endured by his parents, which included getting things thrown at him to being hit with a frying pan and beer bottles while being told to die. He further talked about his psychotic mother, who used to throw knives at him, along with trying to drown him, and whenever he got sick, she would kick him just for fun. Recounting getting hit, struck, slammed into walls, kicked, choked, and forced into cars. A depressed and hospital-ridden Kushina thinks that pain is something he just can't escape, so he agrees with his mother about targeting a fancier car next so that he won't feel anything. Seemingly numbing himself to everything going around him, Kushina thinks that as long as he doesn't feel anything, he just won't suffer. This emotion-blocking technique results in him not feeling any pain in his body and finally getting some rest. The next day, as Kushina wonders about how he wouldn't have survived if he felt all the misery at once, his parents come to get ready so he can be discharged just so he can go home to do chores. Giving one final thought to this miserable existence, Kushina wonders that as long as he is alive, his parents' torture will continue. In the present, the elf god is flabbergasted after reading about Kushina's unfortunate existence. As she thinks about what might have caused him to activate the Indomitable Spirit, she is shocked to realize that, as grit is an ability that brings you back from death's door with one condition, that you have no fear of it. What it actually means is quite shady and hard to master. Thinking about the phrase, no fear of death, the elf god contemplates how it isn't just the feeling of not fearing death, but it also involves pain, as that is something that allows us to strive as our brain clocks in and finds out that something is not right, and when a human feels negative vibes, he usually gets afraid of the pain. This supposed fear of pain is what keeps us living, meaning that if someone isn't fazed by this fear, they wouldn't really detect any calamity or any disturbance in their body. Concluding her rant, the elf god realized that the fear of pain is synonymous with fear of death, and not being afraid of being yeeted out of existence means you have mastered pain. But still far from being simple, the elf god wonders how, even if a person wants to off himself at the very end, they do feel some fear, and there really isn't any idiot who doesn't feel it, as that's self-preservation. Comparing her big brain analysis with Kushina's situation, the elf god wonders if Kushina has spent his whole life overcoming pain, which can only mean that he feels nothing from misery, not even slight fear. Somewhere in the woods, after finally getting his emotions in check, Kushina stands over the defeated monkey, thinking that it's dead and that it can't kill him anymore. Finding this amusing, Kushina laughs and laments that, like always, his luck ran out because his life is nothing but a pathetic walk through an endless desert where he only focused on surviving every day. Yet now he realizes that the only relief will be death. But not losing hope about his suicidal mission, Kushina thinks about how, with his pathetic abilities, he still has a chance of kicking the bucket soon enough, as the elf god told him. But just as he is daydreaming, a girl bursts his bubble with an arrow aimed at him, declaring that he is a dangerous man, if he is even a human in the first place, because after everything that has transpired, she can't be sure. Somewhere in God's crib, the elf is exhausted at the mess she created, and we learn there that the other person she reincarnated is none other than the girl from the forest named Runa, which seems to be a lame JoJo reference. Back to the drama, getting revived after getting hit by the prickly girl's arrow, Kushina wonders that even though it hurts, he didn't die, given that it still hurts him far less than being hit by a car. However, not believing that this pest is up after getting hit by her weapon, Runa aims again and demands that Kushina stop masquerading as a human and show his true monster self, all while materializing an arrow out of nowhere. Awkward at the hysterical girl, Kushina throws another creepy smile, clarifying that he is a human, which seems to further trigger the chick like a true feminist. Confronting Kushina about everything, she states that no one can still be alive after being mauled by a creature like that. So he has to be a monster from another dimension, which causes Kushina to think back to his talk with the elf god, and how she mentioned another world and stuff too. Listening to Kushina's rant about the elf god, Runa chimes in asking if he is talking about the brat god who tends to chain smoke, to which Kushina hesitantly agrees. Shifting back to the brat being mentioned, the elf god throws a tantrum at her crib, throwing around stuff while cursing Runa. As she is messing around, he notices her empty cigarette box, and as that is a big no-no for her, given her stress, she goes out to buy some more while questioning how she always gets stuck with idiots for reincarnates. Back to the forest, Runa finally realizes that Kushina is just a reincarnate like her. Before she can say another word, like an idiot that she is, she trips back and slides down. Dumbfounded with her, Kushina asks her if she is fine and mansplains how she should be mindful of the 3 roots. But as he leans forward to take a look at her, he sees Runa being enveloped by a huge-ass snake who is doing his best impression of a cuddling. As she struggles to push the snake off her, she notices Kushina just standing there, which makes her yell at him in anger to come help her. However, as Runa is being slowly crushed while pleading for help, Kushina stands there like an idiot, wondering what he can do against a huge reptile like this. Getting more nervous by the second, Kushina starts to think about whether he should save her or not, as she attacked him before, and that he would have just thanked her if she had managed to off him. Getting a flashback of the time when he was beaten by his mum, Kushina thinks about even when people are on death's door, no one ever aids them. As Kushina is lost in his mother's memory of telling him that he's such a bad kid that she has no choice but to assault him. And if he does not want to get hit, he should. Right then, the illusion is broken and Kushina is brought back to the present as Runa yells for help, causing Kushina to sprint into action. As he runs towards Runa to save her, he is still plagued by her mother's vision, but he still manages to run forward, seemingly having no control over his body. Kushina lunges at the snake and punches it even if it seems impossible. But that single punch manages to do the trick as the snake is torn apart and Runa is released. Gasping for air, Runa stares at Kushina with awe, wondering how he did it. This seems to break a spell over Kushina as he starts to throw another fit, rummaging through his brain to see what just happened. After witnessing what happened, Runa tells him that even though he barely hit it, he must have done something to cause this result, which results in Kushina thinking what his useless skill might have done. Looking at the passed-out snake and wondering how just one punch did this much damage, Kushina stands there staring at his hand like a retard when Runa starts to thank him for saving her, and also apologizes for attacking him, unlike a sane person. Explaining her reasoning, Runa states that he thought that he might be a monster. Shifting the conversation, she asks Kushina if he is a reincarnate, and that the powers of regeneration and the power by which he defeated the monkey and snake were given to him by the cocky elf god. Answering her, Kushina seems unsure, stating that his power usually tends to make him heal after every such encounter, and he doesn't know how he managed to take down the now-deceased Titanoboa. Puzzled at his answer, Runa investigates the snake, while also thinking about Kushina's skills, and comes to the great mind-blowing conclusion that he'd be hard to beat with those skills. Noticing the dumb chit, Kushina shifts the focus to her, asking her about her own skills as she materializes an arrow out of thin air. Requiring to demonstrate, Runa materializes a whole hoodie for Kushina, explaining how she can make almost anything out of nothing. Handing the clothes to the peasant in front of her, she asks him to get dressed, to which Kushina just shyly thanks her, causing Runa to brush it off while blushing. Meanwhile, explaining her powers further, Runa states that she can make arrows with explosive power, yet they aren't sufficient to deal with monsters. After ending her rant, Runa finally finds her manners and introduces herself while also asking about Kushina regarding his name and whether he is Japanese. Not the brightest chit around, Runa asks Kushina to spell his name, to which he agrees and shows how it is written. During this side lesion, Kushina mentions how now that they aren't enemies anymore, they shouldn't linger in the forest. Agreeing to this, Runa suggests finding a town or a safe place, but Kushina seems hesitant about the town, revealing in a rather psychopathic manner that he wants to off himself. Taking the joke too far, Kushina hangs from the vine around his neck, singing goodbye, but Runa is having none of it as she yanks him down, which causes Kushina to side-eye her, accusing her of stopping him from his mission, and stating that for this exact reason he hates people. Done with the drama queen, Runa just yells at him that it's the right thing to stop him, but Kushina counters back how it's his choice as it's his life. But Runa tries to bring a sensible argument that even though this place is crawling with hideous beasts, they still have another chance at life. However, suddenly, Runa gets a violent flashback which makes her double over. Regaining her wits, she asks Kushina if he really wants to off himself, why not go out in a heroic way by killing all the beasts? Further proving her argument, Runa states that, based on his skills, hanging isn't the best option. Getting somewhat emotional, a vulnerable Runa asks Kushina to use his abilities to protect her stuns Kushina, making him wonder why she wants to live in a world like this. After giving it a thought, especially after learning that he can't hang himself, Kushina promises to try, which pleases Runa greatly. This enthusiasm makes Kushina a little uncomfortable, but seeing the gratitude the Runa is showing him, he accepts and shakes her hand. Sometime later, both of them decide to set up camp, and as Runa throws a hissy fit at camping outdoors, poor Kushina just recalls his pathetic life when he used to sleep in parks and by rivers with no equipment. But as he is left wondering, Runa seems confident about the task given to her Girl Scout history. She starts off by instructing Kushina to get water, food, and a fire while also warning Kushina not to touch mushrooms as they can be poisonous. As they walk around, they arrive at a small cave, finding shelter and for fire. Although Kushina presents the idea of rubbing sticks, Runa just materializes a lighter out of air, which seems to be for nothing as the piece of garbage is out of gas. Seemingly being a dumbass who doesn't know how to make gas, Runa rants about how her power isn't all great and that she will be taking it up with the goddess. But as she is yapping, a huge rhino lunges at them. Seeing the beast barging towards them, both Kushina and Runa decide to get out of there. However, before they can even move, Runa gets thrown off, and Kushina gets impaled by the monster's spikes. Terrified at this gruesome sight, Runa limbs could not manage to get up, but before it's lights out for her too, Kushina regenerates. Deciding not to F around and find out, he grabs Runa and yeets her out of there at great speed while also zigzagging through the monster's spikes emerging in their path. As they get out, a dazed Runa looks on as Kushina wonders what he is going to do now that he has promised Runa to keep her safe. Choosing to be the man for the very first time, he sprints into action and rushes towards the beast to take him head-on, while getting impaled and stuck by many spikes around him. But soon enough, he gets taken down by consecutive big blows, which also scares Runa, who wonders about his safety as it's too much even for him. Understanding that he can't get close, Kushina starts to drown in his usual thoughts, asking the monster to end him based on how he is much stronger than him. As he suffers with the pain and the mental turmoil regarding his failure to keep her promise to Runa, Kushina wonders if Runa will ever forgive him, as he hasn't been forgiven for anything in his life. However, out of nowhere, an arrow whooshes past his head, breaking his train of thought. Seeing that Runa is trying to distract the beast with her arrows, Kushina jumps back action, wondering how that single act by Runa just saved him, and that she didn't leave him alone. Lunging at the monster with the intention of tearing it apart, Kushina's plans are turned to dust when he notices that the monster's armor is as strong as a rock. But despite this setback, Kushina keeps on moving forward, throwing one punch after another. This resilience moves Runa, who is amazed at how Kushina is still keeping his promise. As Kushina continues his relentless pursuit, the armor finally cracks and the beast is thrown back into the rubble. This causes Runa to jump around in joy, exclaiming about how Kushina took down the beast with nothing but his hands once again. Wondering how he did it himself, Kushina thinks about how at the beginning his arm was very weak, but with every passing fight he seems to be becoming stronger and tougher. But just as he is deep in his thoughts, he is torn to shreds by flying rubble. Getting ripped apart by a supersonic ass beam of rocks, Kushina is torn to pieces while the prickly rhino appears once again, standing there menacingly. As Kushina is lying down, a shocked Runa wonders how that thing is still alive after everything. Looking closely, she notices how the rhino has somehow been nerfed and appears to be smaller, making her wonder if it came out of the massive rocks. Meanwhile, as Kushina starts to get his bearings back and tries to get up, he is once again tanked by the rhino, who goes absolutely berserk and yeets Kushina around like a rag doll, throwing him around and tearing him apart again and again. Worried at the sight, Runa tries to call out Kushina, yelling that it is too fast, so his regeneration abilities are useless here. Seeing that Kushina might actually die this time, Runa decided to finally do something other than being a side piece and aims her arrow at the beast. However, before she can do anything, she is brutally yoinked to the ground as well, when suddenly a butt-naked Kushina appears out of nowhere and starts to fight the rhino, making it angrier while Runa looks on and screams his name. Distracted by the pick-me, Kushina gets his arm blown off yet still manages to regenerate it while thinking how though he might not die. But still, his idle running around will get Runa killed. Dodging the attacks, Kushina realizes that he needs to move much faster. As Runa continues to scream in the back about barely dodging herself, Kushina stands firm and takes the rhino head-on and manages to move out of the way in the very last second, but still stupidly trips and gets caught by another attack, making him fall down in disappointment, thinking how his body needs to move faster if he wants to get out of here. As another attack comes his way, Kushina stands up and starts to move faster and faster, and surprisingly, finally manages to catch the beast by its horn, making the beast disoriented. Seeing his chance, Kushina gets ready and lunges forward, aiming right at the beast, while in the background, Runa is amazed at how fast Kushina is and how he managed to catch up with the rhino. Coming back to the fight, Kushina hits the rhino and grabs its horn with all his strength, resulting in breaking it. This causes the rhino to scream in agony as Kushina is shocked at his own strength, thinking how he always believed that he was a sissy and that the beast was the extremely strong one. However, while proudly smiling, Kushina thinks about how it appears that the tables have turned. As a still but naked Kushina stands there mogging the beast, Runa is amazed at how he managed to break the horn, even though its strength can shatter rocks. While thinking about the beast and how it was just tossing Kushina around like a ball, Runa stares at the beast, wondering if the beast is actually weak or if it's something else, and soon enough she realizes that it is Kushina who has become stronger. Back to the fight, the rhino is looking anything but calm, looking almost haggard and done for. Noticing the exhaustion, Kushina stands firm, making Runa wonder if he continues like this. Then he can easily take it down, but before she can materialize another useless thought, the beast's aura shifts, and he roars while releasing extremely hot air, causing Runa and Kushina to be pushed back. As Runa questions the extremely hot air being released, the temperature of the wind continues to rise up, making her wonder if it goes on like this, they can die. Meanwhile, as Kushina is slightly distracted by the air and the insane aura, the beast charges at them, making them recoil back, unable to look. Trying to see what happened, Runa opens her eyes and sees Kushina landing a solid blow at the rhino, making rubble and rocks fly around. Gone with the power of the punch, the rhino is thrown away, crashing to the floor unconscious as Kushina stands there panting with his fist still clenched. Coming back to his senses, Kushina thinks that it might finally be over as Runa looks at him, calling his name, but soon enough, she starts to crash out and make weird sounds, saying how strong he is. This causes Kushina to stand like an idiot while looking at the girl puts her head down on her knees. Questioning about what happened, Kushina asks Runa if she is hurt, but she brushes him off, saying she is just tired. With her head still down, Runa mutters how, as a member of the Kakyoin family, she can't cry no matter what. This troubles Kushina, but before he can react, Runa looks up angrily, demanding that Kushina not look at him with pity. But not really listening to what she is saying, the now all of a sudden shy Kushina starts covering his naked ass from the girl's view. Being a pick-me, Runa takes the wrong meaning about this and angrily shouts at Kushina to stop looking at him like a stinky perv while covering her chest from his view. Diverting the now awkward situation, she materializes some clothes for him and asks him to get dressed, which seems to be a whole-ass girl outfit, making Kushina look like a femboy. Embarrassed at this and trying to cover her eyes, Runa apologizes for making him her own clothes. She just continues to freak around as an awkward Kushina stands there. Sometime later, and thankfully now in men's clothes, both Kushina and Runa chill around a bonfire, while wrapped in sheets and a makeshift mattress. Kushina asks Runa if she is fine with him sleeping first, to which Runa just tells him to get his ass to sleep, as time is limited, and that she wants to think alone for a while. Confused yet agreeing to her, Kushina tucks himself and sides away from Runa, thinking how in his past life he always worked like a dog. So doing nothing now feels off to him, as well as being shown gratitude and receiving clothes all feels weird to him. Staring at a dozing off Kushina, Runa wonders about the skills and how they feel like magic. She goes on about how she is no match for these beasts and that Kushina's skills work the same way. As she is thinking, Runa appears worried and struggling with the fact that Kushina is getting stronger because his speedy regeneration heals him pretty quickly, and the agelessness keeps him flying all the time. And finally, the grit, well, that keeps you going until you just become depressed enough to end it all. Thinking about Kushina and how he told her about all three of these being useless, it is off because at first he punched that rhino obliterated his hand, but after hitting it over and over, he got strong enough to crush rocks. Same with his stealth and speed, with the way he was able to keep up with the rhino. Back at the camp, Runa goes on thinking how even though Kushina is getting stronger, his three skills shouldn't be enough for that level of power, as they are just three useless skills. Coming to a theory she can't ignore, Runa thinks even though the abilities alone are useless, but combined they are the opposite. The scene shifts to some time later, to a sleeping Kushina who is awakened and wonders about Runa, jumping up after realizing that his lazy ass forgot to switch with her. Kushina looks around for Runa, but notices that the fire is gone. Muttering about not being in the house anymore, Kushina suddenly feels someone behind him and looks at a menacing Runa holding a big boulder over her head while barely saying how he can die for her. The scene shifts to Kushina retelling how his mother was always in a shitty mood, especially when she thought that he was not being considerate enough, like a pile full of unwashed dishes, resulting in her hitting him. But being a messy-ass person, she would always hug him afterwards, saying how sorry she is and how she is a terrible mother. According to Kushina, whenever she ugly bawled like that, he just couldn't hate her. But that no matter what, the next day the cycle would go on as she would hit him and then apologize. Back to the hug, Kushina states how people's emotions aren't stable as they can be your nemesis one moment while being best buddies in the next one. And that is something he knows all too well. And that is the reason why this thought breaks off as Kushina comes back to the present and looks at Runa who is ready to hit him, realizing that it's about to happen again. Not freaking out at all, Kushina asks Runa if she wants to kill him, and if she does, then she can go ahead and do it, as that's what he wants. Shocked at hearing this, a panicked Runa starts stuttering how that isn't what she wants, as though she might want to kill him. In this situation, it doesn't mean to literally off him. Knowing that she just F-ed up the entire thing, Runa puts the rocks down and says that, although it doesn't make a difference, she was thinking about skills last night and wanted to test something, but she just messed everything up. She rambles on about how she just startled the poor dude and that it is a bad habit of hers. Kushina just looks done with her and thinks how humans are complicated creatures. Trying to get things back to normal, he asks her about her theories, to which Runa explains that his three skills are somehow interacting with one another, and combined together they tend to have an insane-ass effect. To further prove her point, Runa asks Kushina if he has felt his body getting stronger, to which Kushina just gives a blank stare, trying to process everything when he thinks back to how he fought with the snake and the rhino. As he continues to find a solid though, Runa answers the question for him that he has, because although he has no particular skills to enhance his physicality, he still manages to take down vicious beasts, as certain conditions just happen to take place, making him stronger. Not really understanding her rant, Kushina just stares at her as the scene shifts to the elf's crib, where she throws down some cigarettes on the table with annoyance, yelling about how some stupid Kaye couldn't understand her insane demands and demanded that she show some ID because she looks like a midget, not an adult. Continuing the rant, she blasts the convenience store workers for being unethical and untrained. Throwing a tantrum, she mutters how they should survey reincarnates instead. Done with her meltdown, she stares at the screen and is shocked to see Runa holding a boulder and smashing it over Kushina's arm, which surprisingly does nothing and leaves just a small scratch. Back to our gang, seeing that the boulder hit did nothing, Kushina asks Runa to do it again and asks her not to be too tense, as they will just go on till something happens. Though appearing hesitant, Runa gears back with full power and hits his arm again, but still nothing happens. As an unfazed Kushina stares on, an exhausted Runa hits his arm again, but instead of hurting the arm, shockingly, the rocks split in half, shocking both of them. Being successful at proving her point, causing Kushina to question her about it, Runa asks Kushina if he knows about supercompensation, but he just stares and mutters no, asking if that is some skill. Runa explains how it is a natural process, something that all humans can do, like when you try to work out for that killer summer bod, your weak-ass muscle fibers start to break apart. But when you end up getting some sleep, those fibers start to heal, and they don't just go back to normal, they get better and thicker. This whole long process is supercompensation. And that's how you achieve a killer bod, but according to Runa, this isn't just about muscles, as when our bones break and heal back. They tend to be much stronger, given that when it tears off, it can't be healed anymore, not including his weird ass under this condition. Furthermore, Runa talks about Kushina's rapid regeneration, and how it can heal his cut of body parts, and now paired with that every time his body heals it gets stronger due to supercompensation. Dazed at all, this Kushina just stares on, as Runa warns about a problem about how if this rapid regeneration is turning on his supercompensation, that means his body is continuously changing as in cell division. Turning all scientific with a whole ass diagram of cell division, Runa explains that this cell division is limited for an individual, and as we go from an annoying ass baby to an adult, a portion of chromosome shortens, and once it gets too short, the division stops means you have become a boomer and will eventually die. connecting it what the midget elf god talked about as the god in question listens in shock. Runa asks if she told him that regeneration has a limited number, and once you exceed, you die. But having a solution to counter it, Runa explains that his second skill, Agelessness, is what saves him as he will never run out of cell division cycles. But still neither of the two skills makes him immortal. If he dies, then that's the end for him. Still not giving up on her twink, Runa explains how his third ability can help him overcome death. As Kushina sits there with his arm ready for the next strike, Runa says that through utter will, he can be revived from death just as long as he doesn't give up, even though he wants to die. Not believing the I wanna die charade, Runa digs deeper, saying that his soul doesn't want to give up that. That's why he just keeps coming back. This whole rant shocks Kushina, as he listens to Runa tell him that his three skills counterbalance one another and make him stronger, asking him if he even knows what that means. As this conversation goes on, the elf god watches on as well and smirks, saying how she now realizes everything too. Shifting back to a dumbfounded Kushina, Runa declares how the possible reason behind everything is that the more he dies, the stronger he becomes. Recalling what Runa talked about while hitting Kushina regarding how the rapid regeneration causes an increase in cell division and a stronger body, while the skill of Agelessness makes cell division unlimited, and Grit keeps you alive no matter how bad the injury might be. All these three skills combined make Kushina stronger each time he is yeasted out of existence. Bewildered at what has been revealed to him, Kushina starts to have a mental breakdown, as Runa stares in cluelessness. He also starts to smirk, causing her to get more weirded out by the creepy-ass smile while thinking how he might be happy with the news about how he is the strongest even without doing anything, and that he might forget all his worries now. But suddenly cutting her off, Kushina screams out, freaking out why does this always happen to him, and why can't he just die? Going on the pathetic rant, Kushina continues how even getting hit by the car didn't work, and even after selling his precious heart to the Yakuza, his ass managed to survive. This shock and creeps out Runa, who wonders what he is even talking about. Not bothering with the stupid chit, Kushina goes on cursing the chill fate gods about how in 7 hells is he getting stronger every time he dies. Wondering if the Chainsmoker elf was one of these fate gods, Kushina continues to panic as a worried Runa tries to calm him down, but too focused on his miserable life. Kushina sees some mushrooms and wonders if he can't kill from the outside. Then he must kill from within. Thinking that he eats a mushroom and starts munching on it while Runa yells out that it might be poisonous. Not giving her any mind, Kushina continues to munch on them as Runa demands him to puke them out by using his fingers. Suddenly we see Kushina again, all well and good, muttering how they were delicious, showing them to Runa, saying that these are quite tasty, which shocks her as she thinks about what might be wrong with this guy. Being a big back, Kushina finishes the entire thing thinking how these are the best mushrooms that he has ever had, and that he feels good now after eating them. As his greedy ass looks for another one, Runa asks him if they are that good because since she came here she has been nibbling on fruits and leaves to fill her fearing that anything else might be poisonous. As she fearfully moves on to give them a try, she notices Kushina acting trippy, telling her that these shrooms make him look big and small. Knowing that it's not real, she tells him that, but Kushina just counters back, saying that it is, to which Runa realized that he is hallucinating and these shrooms aren't that good. Here we learn that some toxic shrooms tend to have a delicious umami flavor to them. High as a kite, Kushina says that Runa appears to be looking stronger than him while visualizing a Runa on steroids who yells that she is not. Shifting forward, the She-Hulk Runa grabs Kushina, to which he just starts to perv out and asks her to strangle him with those huge arms. Done with the twisted freak, Runa just starts to yell at him. However, not listening to her, Kushina runs off, saying how he seems faster too, which makes Runa wonder if he is getting quite fast due to the supercompensation. As Kushina runs off, Runa yells after him to slow down and wait for him, as he has promised to protect her. Not letting a chick get hold of him, Kushina breezes with the wind. However, soon enough, he abruptly stops as he sees some people allowing Runa to catch up to him. Believing it to be another hallucination, Runa runs up to him and sees a whole castle in front of her, from whose window an armed man questions them if they are kid adventurers while telling them that he'll open the gates. Through the gates, both of them enter a huge town filled with houses and people walking around. Looking at the massive buildings around them, Runa shrieks in happiness that they are finally in a town, as a disheveled Kushina also mutters about it, and realizes that the hallucinations are finally wearing down, but sadly without killing him. Looking at his state, Runa states how he doesn't look okay but will manage based on his abilities. Shifting her focus from the perv on her side, Runa falls in relief about how she is finally out of the jungle filled with monsters. A hand suddenly appears asking if she is okay. Thinking she is gonna be saved by Prince Charming, Runa is appalled to see ugly-ass men with scary expressions and carrying shady stuff. Believing herself to be done for, the man with the eye patch tries to calm her down, saying that she might have thought them to be like the forest monster, but they are not. Sometime later, while sitting at a table filled with food, the men joke around about how she might have confused them based on their extreme manly aura. However, Runa is the least bit attentive as she is busy stuffing her face with tasty food after so long. Trying to get her attention, the man tells them how they appear new around here, so he thought they might be some specialized bounty hunters, but they just turned out to be just some idiots. As the man warns them how the forest is filled with monsters while showing them the pictures of the huge monkey, the man goes on about the forest and the apes and rhinos that live there, and how 10-seasoned fighters can't even bring them down. Further, the eye patch tells them how killing one of the monsters will make you rich, but that is a huge if. Kushina appears amazed at how it takes 10 men to bring down the beast, to which the eye patch dude exclaims that if you see a monster, just get yourself out of there, or just accept your death. Chiming in, the other men state how it is too early for these two to be making their own cash, seemingly mocking them. As they get more brash, one man orders another ale from a waitress nearby, who questions their broke asses if they can even afford the food, as they only completed the cheapest jobs. Not responding, the men just decide to bolt, shouting to put the bill on their tab for later. Standing dazed as the men leave them behind, Runa and Kushina wonder what they can do when all of a sudden the waitress carrying the dishes turns around and asks them how much money they have, to which they just shakily admit to being broke as hell, as it cuts to a picture of the ape. Not tolerating being labeled a broke bitch, the scene shifts to Kushina dragging in the monsters he slayed as onlookers gawk at the sight of Kushina carrying the monsters easily, asking about where he can collect the money. Transitioning in a building, a bag filled with coins lies on the table as Kushina observes one of the coins, wondering how much it might be worth, believing that it is enough to cover yesterday's food bill. Amazed at this, Runa rumbles how it is more than enough for a house and bath for a while, and that is confirmed after she looked around for prices. Thinking when she got the time to do that, Runa just smiles, saying that's her dialogue as she shifts focus to Kushina and how he manages to take down the forest's beasts so easily. But it's still not enough because the other animals that he killed, including the ape and the rhino, had a lot of bounty due to their pelts and processed meat items. As Runa wonders about the location of their corpses, Kushina just looks around and focuses on a board with various monster pictures, wishing that either of the two monsters he faced had killed. While on his suicidal thought train, Kushina shifts his focus on how, after he promised to protect Runa, he can't leave her alone in front of a beast just to die. But as time goes on, every monster is starting to feel weaker, and he seems to be moving away from his ultimate goal of dying. As Kushina stares at his hand in despair, his thoughts run wild, surrounding what if this exact promise and his regeneration over and over again makes him unable to die. Diverting Kushina from these depressive thoughts, a girl appears asking him if he can defeat monsters and if he can kill them, especially the one who murdered her father. As Kushina and Runa stare at her, all bewildered, the girl shows them a picture of this wind tiger who seems to control the wind, allowing it to cut and blast anything away, and that it is the deadliest creature in the forest of calamity, the one they just got out of. Shifting to everyone sitting down with the girl, she continues her story about how her dad was apparently a tough-as-nails adventurer, but this thing, sifting to the tiger, ended him. As the girl breaks off her sentence and looks down in sadness, Runa tries to reason, but soon realizes that the girl will want to avenge her father. Asking Kushina to follow her, leaving the girl behind, she tells him how this wind tiger is far more powerful than anything they have faxed yet, so they are not sure what will happen when they come face to face with it. And they don't even know this chick, so why should they risk their lives? But Kushina cuts her off, saying that they will fight it. This stuns Runa, who asks if he is dumb or stuff, but Kushina cuts her off, asking her if she forgot that he wants to die, so this hell tiger seems a great option to him. Seeing the creepy smile appear again, Runa recoils back, angrily asking him if he knows what will happen when it charges at him. Tearing to gaslight him, Runa states that if he goes in to fight this tiger, his body will be regenerating, making him so strong that no one will be able to nerf him ever again. Shocked at this revelation of no one being able to kill him, Kushina just panics, demanding that he needs to die soon, but Runa counters how his third skill, grit, won't let him die. Shifting to Kushina, he yells how it just activates because he isn't afraid of death, and adding to this, Runa states that he will keep on reviving and will be stuck in a cycle without any relief from death. Frustrated at everything, wondering what he must do, Runa takes pity on him, assuring him that if the skills activate while he's unafraid of being at death's door, then they won't activate if he, for once, starts to live his life with joy in it. Thinking about what Runa said about joy, Kushina just solemnly mutters about how he is to get that, to which Runa calmly replies that it is something only he can figure out, as at this moment, he is only focused on dying, so it's best if he sees around and learn about the world around him. Trying to figure everything about this soul-searching hippie stuff, Kushina asks Runa if he fights the tiger and manages to either die or become immortal. Then it should be of no concern to her because she has escaped the forest and has enough money to survive remembering what she told him about prices. So then why is she meddling and trying to stop his suicidal crusade? Sighing, Runa explains that she is not heartless enough to pull this off, and even though he is weird, they are from the same world and they have been through a lot, so she doesn't want him to be miserable. Ignoring a stunned Kushina, Runa goes on saying how it sounds hypocritical, even if she stopped him from activating his skill. Listening to this, a solemn Kushin mutters that if him not fight the tiger will allow him to be not miserable. Confused, Runa just goes psych, who knows, causing Kushina to hesitantly agree with her. Going on, Runa states how telling someone that they be fine without evidence is bad, but still telling that to him makes her happy, causing Kushina to jolt. Continuing on, Runa states how, though she thought they were polar opposites, she believes that Kushina does not want to suffer, causing Kushina to finally realize his feelings. Deciding right then to butt in, the girl asks them what they have been yapping about, to which Kushina hesitantly replies that they won't be fighting the wind tiger despite protests from Runa. As Kushina apologizes to the girl, she just stares at him with her heart broken and decides to run away like a sissy. Sad at what happened, Runa tries to lighten things by saying that it's for the best, but right then and there, Kushina's creepy-ass smile returns, causing Runa to go haywire, wondering what type of sadistic shit enjoys hurting children like that and smiling that creepily afterwards. Ignoring her, Kushina just states how good fortune comes to those who smile, but Runa counters him that with that shit-eating grin, no chance. Giving one last thought to this mess, Kushina says that because he wants to be happy, he chose not to fight. Sometime later, as the day rolls in and birds start chirping, we shift to Kushina waking up, yawning, and saying how he finally got some good sleep better due to not sleeping on his crusty futon at home. However, just then, he hears a shriek, and we see Runa covered with a huge slimy creature. As Kushina and innkeeper look at her sorry self, the woman says that mimicking a bed wasn't the brightest idea and that she should have marketed it if it succeeded, while Runa just tells her not to test shit like this on guests. Trying to calm the shrieking girl by telling her that it's harmless and that some adventurers brought it in, Runa is anything but calm. Meanwhile, not missing a chance of proving to be a weirdo, Kushina jumps into bed and praises how comfy it is, comparing the softness to that of being licked by a dog. Sometime later, we see both of them leave the inn all dressed up as Runa offers that, after breakfast, they should check the market for supplies. She also suggests Kushina look around to see if he finds anything to live for. But just as Kushina is thinking about what she offered, there is a wild clank as heavily armed townspeople's watchmen enter the premises, declaring that Kushina is under suspicion for troubling other adventurers, and if that proves to be true, then his ass will get killed. Sometime later, the scene shifts to Runa, who happily introduces herself as a hot-blooded reincarnate who was summoned by a god. Attempting a lame-ass food review, Runa declares that she will be reviewing a different world's food today, which appears to be a thick, yucky bread and soup combo. Eating the bread, Runa declares how the bread seems to be quite thin, however tastes like shit with a flavor similar to bread made out of barley or rye, like in her home. And if that wasn't great enough, it got some sick mold as well, which, though it seems to be a sly ingredient, isn't very hidden. As Runa yeets the bread away, a mole rat nibbles on it but ends up dying instead from the horrid thing. Feeling sad for offing a random poor rat, Runa skips to the soup in order to gaslight her stomach into thinking that she ate. Taking a sip of the shitty thing with a fake-ass influencer smile, Runa thinks about how the soup tastes like hot water. Finally breaking out of her delusion, she shouts that she never wished for a horrid jail experience. Skipping to Kushina, who is in a cell, wondering how it's his first time in jail and hopefully his last, a guard from outside calls them out, ordering them to stop their lame yapping as Runa curses him out. Speaking her mind, Runa states that they aren't prisoners and that Kushina killed the monsters himself and fairly demanded money for it. But Runa is trying to fight their case. Kushina's dumb self is festing on some deadly-looking moss, saying how yummy it is. This frustrates Runa, and that is further escalated when a random ass man tells them to shut their traps, and that only criminals eat that. Taking it up a notch, he states that if they keep horsing around he'll throw them in solitary confinement, causing Runa to shiver with disgust, but soon enough a real guard comes around and tells the prisoner to stop impersonating him. Seeing that he has been caught, the dude resigns to his fate as the guard apologizes on his behalf and just tells them to ignore. Skipping to the random, weird dude who is now drinking wine like a depressed housewife, Runa wonders how, even here, money buys comfort. Frustrated, she wonders how, even though that dude was a fake, if they stay here they will be labeled as criminals. Not losing hope, Runa materializes a spoon, thankful for her ability because using this skill, they can make their escape. However, her thoughts are crushed when a guard calls them out, saying how they had been summoned by the church, and while look-maxing, declares this if for their court session. Shifting to a church where Runa and Kushina stand for their trial, the general public and key figures all take their seats. The judge asks for their name, to which Kushina answers is followed by Runa giving her weird name, which causes people to mutter, calling it odd, and that she might be from some shady eastern region. This makes Kushina wonder about the time Runa was talking about her family and how they don't cry. Telling her that he always wondered about her last name, Kushina tells her that it sounds cool. This shocks Runa, however, her awe is interrupted by the judge, who orders them to show some respect. The boomer judge continues how this court utilizes a randomly selected jury of common folks to issue a judgment. As the scene shifts to the stern-looking juror, the judge tells the reincarnates that if they are found guilty of robbery, they will be executed, which scares Runa. However, thinking about it, Kushina appears anything but concerned. As the judge orders the captain of the watch to explain the incident, the latter goes on in detail that the two defendants stole monster dead bodies from some other poor adventurer, claiming it as their own and demanding money for it. Emphasizing that this was what they were told by the public, Runa explodes in anger about the slander. But the mystery is solved when we see the brat from before looking cocky, wondering that it serves them right. This angers Runa further as she almost curses the girl. Kushina intervenes as well, thinking that the girl did this because he decided not to help her. Labeling it a petty revenge, Runa states that it is a false allegation and demands that the supposed victim be presented. Hearing this, someone states how there isn't any formal report from a lame victim yet, which leads to Runa looking smug. However, not letting this chick one-up him, the guard diverts the attention and asks about the bag of money they made in one day, to which Kushina agrees that it is. But not listening to this, the guard just addresses he judge, stating how the average amount an adventurer earns from a monster hunt is nothing but 2 lame-ass pennies, which shocks Runa, and the judge wonders the same about them being too low. The jurors were also shocked to learn this, as they are not adventurers themselves. Quick to counter, Runa claps back, saying how that doesn't make sense and to hold on, but the guard cuts her off, saying how some skilled hunters can earn some fine dope from good hunts. But these hunts usually require great planning, and yet these 2 idiots just waltzed into town and managed to achieve it in one day. As Runa and Kushina stand worried, the jurors and public accuse them of being shady, as if the accusations get louder as more and more people start to chime in on how these 2 need to be stopped, and they can't be let go. Seeing this worsening situation, Runa curses and looks at the guard, thinking about how his ideas have made everyone's minds about them. And in this trial, no matter the truth, it's the people who will decide their fate, and she just can't allow that to happen. Trying to make her case, Runa shouts how they can't just convict them without the victim being present, and that everyone is going haywire over nothing. Charging forward towards the public, Runa shouts at the girl, asking her if she was the one who made this accusation. Grilling her further while getting in her face, Runa demands that the girl bring the victim if they even exist. Seeing this as an attack, guards approach Runa with their spears forward, stating that the case about their shady ass earnings still remains, and that the town is already fed up with adventurer fraud, so if they have any issues, they must take them to court. Not backing down, Runa turns to Kushina, demanding him to do something as they are underrating his accomplishments. But Kushina just stands there like a weak ass, looking at what to do. Demanding him to grow a pair and not give up, Runa asks him to fight back at the unfairness, which grabs Kushina's attention. Going on, Runa states how even though there is no evidence of their crime, they are ready to kill them based on some twisted sense of justice. Listening to this rant, the people start to look conflicted as well, causing Kushina to notice how with only one sentence Runa changes the entire vibe of the room. And as she stands there defending them all alone, he wants her words to echo to them. But as even blood can run cold if the vote is eventually against them, they are surely gonna get executed. Thinking about this injustice, Kushina wonders how his old lame version would have accepted that. But now, as he understands the world, he can make his escape from this room. Accepting this, as Runa is being hassled by the guards, Kushina makes his move, but still reverses his power based on the fact that these are not monsters but humans. However, all of a sudden, a loud, ugly-ass screech diverts the attention as a huge gargoyle attacks the people, causing the guards to get in position. But just then, as Runa looks behind, Kushina lunges forward and lands a vicious blow to the monster, causing it to violently fly back and burst out of the gates. The scene moves to the monster lying unconscious outside the church as a stunned Kushina stands still, wondering how he couldn't hold back.